We have been reading a lot in the papers recently about accounts that were in Liechtenstein 2 years ago when these matters surfaced, and then about the HSBC. What had happened was that an employee of HSBC had taken out information and given it to the French government. The French government in turn passed it on to the Indian government. And it seems that there were about 700 names of Indians. So the Income Tax Department has been inquiring into all of these. In some cases, they carried out search and seizure activities. They carried out a raid. They went to people's houses, checked everything, and so on. Then after that, they understood how these accounts functioned outside India. In many cases, people had trusts outside India. Some people just had a personal account or a numbered account, but many had trusts outside India. Some of them had companies under trust. That means companies which were held by trusts. So the question arises: were these properly done? Were they not properly done? Do the persons have to pay tax, and so on? Many people have been coming to consult on these issues, and what we are finding is that while they carried out searches in some cases in the beginning, then they understood the modus operandi. They then went into the tax records of the person. They didn't just send out notices. They segregated and found that some people appear to be non-resident of India and some appear to be resident of India. If a person was resident of India, then they would raid that person. And if the person appeared to be non-resident on the basis of the tax returns that he had been filing, then they would not raid the person, but they would send a notice to him and ask him to come and give information on this account. So for instance, one of our clients had gone there a couple of weeks ago. So the officer said, do you have an account outside India? So he said, yes, I'm a non-resident, and of course I have accounts outside India. You can't live anywhere in the world without an account. So I have an account. So the officer said, where is it? So he said, I have an account in London, in America, and I have one in Geneva with HSBC. That was what the officer really wanted to know. So he said, how much do you have in the account? So our client said, $2.5 million. So the officer said, no, you have $2.4 million. So they had so much information, but now the question arises, what is one supposed to do? The officer says, give me a transcript of the account, because even though you are non-resident and you're entitled to hold an account outside India, are you liable to tax on that income? Has any of that money emanated from India? Was it that it accrued in India on account of your business transactions or on account of sale of any property? Have you transferred it illegally from here to there? Have you deposited in cash over there? Or is it actually truly from an outside source? So the difficulty is, should one give all this information or should one not give this information? This is a question that comes up. The Income Tax Department knows a lot already. So you can't really hide much information. But of course, people are reluctant to give the information. So many people say, well, this is a trust outside India. The trust was created outside India. It was created at a point of time when I was non-resident. The trust is managed by foreign trustees. The trust has all its assets outside India. No part of this trust has anything to do with India. Therefore, the trust is non-resident. I can't even answer these questions. You have to ask the trustees. You write to the trustees, they may reply to you or they may not reply to you. So that's the answer that some people give. But then other people say, well, we don't want to get into this kind of inquiry. Since we've not done anything wrong, the money in that account is actually earned outside India and has got nothing to do with India at all. We don't mind giving that information. So everyone will have a different take on it. But the thing is that it does cause a lot of tension. Now, America also has, in fact, even right now, a voluntary disclosure scheme going on. That this started earlier this year, and the American government said that if any person who is resident of America, either a US citizen or a green card holder, who has accounts outside America, then not only is he liable to pay tax in America on the income that he's got outside India, like interest income, rent, dividend, etc., but he must also disclose the existence of the account and give the balances. So even if a person in America has got, let's say, 1 crore of rupees in current account here and he's not earning anything, He doesn't have any income, therefore there's no income to be declared there. But he must declare the existence of this account over there. And they say that we will go back to 1st January 2003 and we will see the peak balance in this period. Whatever is the peak balance, no matter from what source it came, no matter that it was a loan or whatever else, if you have not declared this overseas account, overseas from the American point of view, then if you go under the voluntary disclosure scheme, you have to pay a penalty of 25% of the peak balance from the period from 1/1/2003 up to date, and hereafter of course you have to declare. And if you do not avail of this voluntary disclosure scheme, which is going to continue until 31st December 2011, then they will penalize you very heavily, and according to their own calculations, the penalty will be something like 150% of your peak balance, and there can be prosecution and so on. So America also has this voluntary disclosure scheme. Of course, India's gone through schemes after schemes right from the 1960s. We had the Gold Bond scheme, and then we had the VDS in 1975, we had the VDIS in 1997, we had the amnesty schemes in 86, 87, etc. We've gone through all of these. And the government of India has given an undertaking to the Supreme Court that we will not have any more voluntary disclosure schemes in future. So the government can't do it. But there is still a lot of money outside India which people want, many people want to be able to bring back, because firstly it's not earning much over there, secondly it's causing stress to them, but are not able to do so. But I'll give you an example of something that we did do in one or two cases. In two cases. In both of them the facts were somewhat similar. That there was a person who was resident of India and he had a litigation going on with his relatives. So both knew of the existence of the account. Suppose this one has the account outside India and this one knows of it. And the litigation was going on in the court. Now this one had said, I'm going to complain to the tax authorities. So before he could complain, what we did was we told this one, you have accounts written up outside India. Draw up a perfect double entry account, cash book, ledger, capital account, profit and loss account, balance sheet, everything. Then we see what is the time barring period. Now accounts can be, the income tax assessments can be reopened for 6 years from the end of the assessment year. Therefore today the financial year which is open is FY 2004-05, because FY 2004-05 means assessment year 2005-06. That's going to get time barred on 31st March 2012. Therefore the income tax department cannot look at anything before 1/4/2004. They can only look at 2004-05 onwards. So we said, draw up the account. See how much income you had outside India in 2004-05. How much did you have in 5-6, 6-7, etc. Then aggregate that to your Indian income so that you pay tax at the appropriate rate. Work out the tax, pay that to the income tax department, have your challan in hand, prepare a revised return. You can only file a revised return for the last 2 years or so. You cannot file a revised return for earlier years. But having paid the tax, having prepared the return, if you go to the counter, they will not accept it because it's an old return. Then you write to the ITO saying that I want you to reopen my assessment because I am declaring this income voluntarily. So you please issue a notice to me under section 148 so that in response to that I can go to the counter and tell your clerk, see, ITO has asked me to file, now you have to accept my return. Give the return to him, and since you've disclosed it voluntarily, then there's a good case for not having to pay a penalty. So you'll pay your tax, you'll pay your interest, but you may not have to pay penalty. And even if a penalty is levied, then one may apply under section 273 of the Income Tax Act, which gives you a once in a lifetime waiver from penalty. That's also very difficult to get, but at least the provision is there in the statute book, and if the amounts are large, one may even file a writ petition in the High Court to try and get that. And what happened in those cases was that, let's say the person had opened an account outside India in the year 1999. We now have to file returns for 2004-05 onwards. Suppose he had sent out, let's say, 1 million in 99, and that 1 million had become 1.2 million in 2004-05. on 1st April 2004. And if since then the amount has gone from 1.2 million to 1.5 million, let's say, because the interest rates there are not so high. That means even though you bring back 1.5 million, you will say that my initial 1 million is outside the jurisdiction of the tax authorities. The 200,000 that I earned from 1999 to 2004 is also outside the jurisdiction of the tax authorities. All that you can tax is the 1.2 growing up to 1.5. So we'll pay tax on 300,000, which is approximately 100,000, pay interest on that 300,000, on that 100,000, which is another 100 or 150. So pay 250,000 and bring back 1.5 million. So that's what some people have done, and so far it's been fine. We have to still see how the penalty matter will work out. But these are some of the things that are happening. So people do want to bring their money back, but they have to find creative ways in which to do it, because one can't, unfortunately, do everything as one would like to do. So there are already opportunities outside India because other countries are under so much stress. But there are also going to be risks in terms of foreign exchange, in terms of having to comply with other laws, and in terms of the fact that since those countries are not doing well, the assets may continue to be depressed. So it's not that one is necessarily going to get a good return just because a property looks beautiful or a share looks underpriced. And in fact, even banks are not even financing that much outside India for acquisition of assets. So while there are opportunities, there are going to be risks. But this is something that we have to take into account, and I'm sure Money Life will help you in this.